Hey, Alvaro, and the question is it pronounced correctly? Alvaro?
Yes, Alvaro. It would be
Alvaro.
perfect. Yeah,
Alvaro. Alvaro. Um, yeah,
Alvaro works too.
Alvaro, okay. We clarified that. So, but what I don't know, what was your first computer?
Oh, that's good memories. That was an Amstrad CPC 464. Have you
Uh-huh.
heard of that? Rings any
Yes.
bell?
Yeah, because I had a ZX Spectrum and it was bought by Amstrad. So it was,
Yep.
I think, the last ZX Spectrum, which was not called Amstrad, but it was the nicest one. It was the ZX Spectrum with plastic keys and not the rubber keys.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I had this strange history with computing. So I got this first computer very early on. I was like 13 years old or so.
Mhm.
But my father said, "Oh, this is going to be interesting. Like you should get into this." And actually, I started programming already by then.
Mhm.
Well, programming. I was literally copying from the magazines
Mhm.
lines of basic code into the computer, which I
Mhm.
didn't understand. And
Mhm.
then I hit run and it did some things, right?
It worked for you?
It worked for you, but I was just mostly copying. I mean, I was trying to understand, but
Yeah.
rotating cube and cosines and sines with 13 years old, like,
Yeah.
I was not that good.
I also copied from magazines, but but it never worked. So I mistyped something, and couldn't find the error. So I have to say, I even this achievement. So I try hard, but it never worked. And then I tried, to by myself, and it worked half at least. For loops and the print equivalent in BASIC. I forgot actually. Maybe it's a sprint,
Yeah,
like Hello
probably
World.
print. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to look at this.
So,
Maybe.
so actually, I think I was lucky because at the time, my father was one of the first people in his company to be able to interact with a computer. He was telling me it was called a rainbow. I don't even know what that is. I never looked at that. We should also check that. And so he saw the value in that, and that's why he bought me this computer. And he helped me create the first program in BASIC, which was basically endless loop of print, while true print, whatever, right? And I was
Exactly.
amazed, like, oh wow, the computer is so fast.
Mhm.
But then when my extent of patience of copying lines without understanding what they meant was over, I essentially stopped and I started just playing games. And it
Which
was then
games?
until the
What
university
What was your first
when I
game?
was
The most favorite game
oh
back then?
I always liked racing games,
Uh huh.
and what really got me was Sega Rally,
Sega.
because
Uh huh.
that was one among the first 3D polygonal games.
Hmm.
And it was amazing the amount of care they put into understanding the real mechanics and physics of the game.
Okay.
So they went as far. I mean, now it's maybe commonplace, but at the time when most racing games were like super artificial, felt
Hmm.
like really clunky.
Hmm.
In Sega Rally, when you jumped because you were going fast, and there's
Hmm.
an uphill, and then the car flies. If you
Yeah,
keep
I do
pressing
it
the
all the time, so
accelerator,
no problem.
yeah, exactly. Well, if you kept pressing the accelerator, the
Hmm.
revolutions went,
Ah, cool.
skyrocketed. This
Uh-huh.
was exactly what happens with a real car, right?
Yeah,
And the wheels start spinning like really fast, and like it was a huge amount of details put into that game. So I would say that was my favorite one.
cool. And you kept playing until university?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of stopped at some point when I was maybe 16, 17. And it was
Hmm.
only when I got to university that I found myself, I was like literally an illiterate in computers, so much that this is embarrassing for me. But,
Hmm.
and I studied, my degree was telecommunication engineering. And
Wow.
when I went there, I was 17, close to 18 years old. A colleague of mine from the school who also attended university said, "Oh, here you're going to learn to program in C."
Hmm.
And I said, "Oh, I already know that
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
on another one's computer, I can open like a black window that says C and then colon slash
Yeah.
whatever." So I thought the Windows prompt was programming
Hmm.
in C.
Hmm.
That was my literacy level with computers at that time.
Hmm. Okay. Similar here, I have to say. I because I remember there was the first day of the study, and the others, had a chat about compression algorithms and whatever, and I couldn't even understand the problem what they're talking about. It's like what they are doing there, and yeah, but then went everything well. But at the beginning, they were really geeks in my group. But the interesting
Mm-hmm.
part is only a few of them finished the entire study. So most of them were
Wow.
gone after 1 year. So this was the interesting part. Somehow they were, interested in different areas actually. But telecommunication is actually hard. So I would say there's lots of I can imagine communication protocols, right? Math,
Yes.
crazy. Uh-huh.
I call it. It has like 3/3. 1/3 is programming, computer science, but the other 2/3 is 1/3 is electronics, and the other one is communications. And communications like mostly radio. And it was quite interesting, to be honest. I like the programming part more, but the other two were also quite interesting. Definitely.
So it reminds me, in my study there was one how to call it, like nice to have lesson, or how to call it, not lesson, and it was like I could pick from airplanes, which was fun. You could go to fly even at the end, then something else, and then multimedia. And I say, okay, then do something multimedia. It's going to be easy. Maybe I will do something with art. And the multimedia was how JPEG compresses data, Fourier transformation. This was like 110% math and zero for color. So it was even a shell would be more, a terminal would be more multimedia than this. And the others said there's nothing to do, and we are at Sun, and I had to learn compression algorithms or whatever. So this is similar to telecommunication. Sounds nice, but it is really hard.
Absolutely. Fourier transform was like centerpiece of everything, right? But what was good for me, so I entered the university without basically knowing anything about computers, just this distant reminder of basic programming, but thinking that C programming is the Windows C prompt, right? So command prompt. Shameful. But then I got very early on into the student union, and there they were using Linux. And I was like, I don't know how to use this. They said, "Oh, we're teaching a free course tomorrow." I was like, "Okay, I'll join," because I don't know how to even start the thing. And I was like, "Oh wow, this is amazing! You can do like really powerful things with these commands. I need to learn these commands." And 6 months later, I got a computer that I bought, spare parts, whatever, by doing some side jobs. And then I installed Windows because that was the thing. And then 3 months later, I was like, no. This thing in the university is so much more powerful. And I dumped that Windows. I said, the only way to learn this is to just use it every day, right? So I deleted Windows, I installed Linux, and that was 1997. I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, but did you manage to install the graphical user interface back then?
Yeah. Of course, I learned. It took effort, but I ended up mastering Linux quite well by then.
Almost the same story to yours, because I couldn't afford the C compiler. So I had to buy Linux. This was the idea, because it was free. And I bought Linux, and I wanted to have Windows, the graphical user interface. And then I bought an old machine, actually assembled from parts even. Yeah, I assembled from parts, and then try to install the graphical user interface. And what I remember is I was almost done, and there was like a prompt, read the number on the graphic card. And I said, really? Then they have disassembled the computer. So what I had to do is, I disassembled the computer and put, I don't know, it was not like the product name, it was something else. And then it worked. Wow. It was a German Slackware, I think it was back then. And then it worked from them. And I had dual boot, Linux and Windows. And what I remember is the master boot record. I have to do something there, and I always mess up Windows, because I remember Windows tried to override that or whatever. So I had to back up this, and this was also a very similar story to yours. And so what I learned very early is dd command, to back up the master boot record.
Oh, I have a good story about this. I was once trying to install another distribution of Linux. I guess I was not familiar with Root yet, or something like this.
Okay.
And so I had only one computer, and then this computer didn't have a CD-ROM, which was by the time the way of doing this. But it's like, okay, I know I can take an ISO image and DD into the first sectors of the hard drive, and it will boot from the hard drive. So it's like, let's do this. And then what I said is like, okay, let's look at the partition table. And I saw that I had, on the partition 4 installed whatever I was using right now. Like, okay, I'll DD this and override the hard drive. I'll take a backup of my partition table so I can restore it later, because obviously if I DD into the hard drive, I will override that. But as long as I partition then the disk and install in the first partition, so I'll be good. So I did that, except I forgot to back up the partition table. So I literally did the CD installation for Debian, whatever, into the first sectors of the hard drive, wipe the partition table, and start the installation. And it's like, yeah, now I can install again, but where's my data? I mean, I know it's there, I just don't know where.
Exactly.
So from the installation itself, I managed to start running xdump, or to install xdump, and then start parsing the output, looking for the first, X characters for what it looked like an XT2 or XT3 at the time file system, first bytes, and I found some false positives and a bit of grepping and awk and whatnot. And after 4 or 5 hours, I was able to find my partition, and then kind of do a DD partial of that partition, mount it, check, oh yeah, this is it, then compute the offset, and then recreate the partition tables. This whole operation took me like 5 or 6 hours. Now, the funny part was that when I was like 3 a.m. in the morning, totally crazy with this, the screen only looking at xdumps, like literally like this matrix screensaver, right?
Matrix.
My father woke up and came to my room and looked at the screen and was like, "Are you okay? What are you doing there?" It's like, "No, hold on, there. I just see my partition. I see my partition. Go." He thought I was crazy. Probably it was.
Almost the same story here, but also DD. And what I confused is the out and in. There are 2 parameters.
Sorry.
No problem. And then I also didn't put anything, and I was like, but I had no idea. It was, I don't know what the internet was out there, but it was a little bit earlier than yours. I think it happened to me 1995 or 1996, something like this.
Oh, wow.
Because 1997, I already did Java, and then I had Linux and everything. And 1995, Java came out. Maybe 1994, I started with the Linux stuff. And And there was no way to learn it. So I found a book, actually 3 thick books. I threw them away recently. It were Windows NT books, and they describe what master boot record actually is. And at the beginning of the first one, this was like, NT Administrator Bible or whatever. And looked actually nice, because it was really like 3 books. It looks like really professional. But I didn't, after 2 days, I gave up. So I have to say kudos to you, because for me, it was not possible to achieve anything. But I reinstalled Linux several times anyway, because this is what I learned the most, different distributions. And I remember Slack, SUSE Linux, is a German company. And then I found Red Hat, and I really like Red Hat. I don't know why. And what I wanted to achieve is, on the Linux, is the look and feel of CDE. No KDE, the CDE, the environment, because it looked really Unix-like.
Yes,
and
I agree.
I like that. Because I had at the university... HP UX, and they had a nice look and feel, and I wanted to replicate that, and this is what caused me, to reinstall Linux several times. But interesting stories we have, actually. So
we do,
and I wanted to learn C and C++, and Linux was the way to go. And at the beginning, I was Minix, there was a floppy disk with Minix. I remember. I had no idea what it actually means, but I was fascinated that it was like a secret club which no one understands, and if you do something happens. This was actually a nice thing. What do you program at the university?
They taught us Pascal.
Okay.
In 1996, when I entered the university, for 1 year Pascal, and then 2 more years without programming, and only on the fourth year, which was before the last one, we did both C and Java for different subjects.
Java as well.
Java was focused on networking. Actually, it was a networking class, and they said we're going to program in Java, which was like we started with sockets, like most people start with all this stuff. Well, I mean, we did a bit of data structures and then sockets. And C was mostly focused on data structures, hash tables, and like implementing a hash table, things like this. And it was nice. And I liked Java much more than C at the time. And I guess that was my beginning with Java. So that was it was 2000, I think. Then I went to the US for the last year of my degree. And there I focused mostly on C++, which surprisingly at the time I liked. And not anymore.
I like C++
especially
a
not
lot
modern
back then.
C++.
I liked a lot C++ because the C in and C out fascinated me. The operator overloading. And what I really appreciated, the clear, strict separation back then between header files and the implementation. This is what I remember, that it is completely separate. And Java, I say, okay, it's nice, but it's not really separated, I think, with the interface in Java. What I remember back then, and I couldn't understand interfaces at all until JDBC, actually. If I look at the source code of JDBC, I got, the interfaces, because if you look at the driver manager, what it does, and the connection, the JDBC connection, and then there's the Postgres connection, the back then Oracle connection, and Oracle connection implements connection, and the driver manager returns, the connection without knowing which one. It's like, this is actually the point, because back then no one could explain why you need interfaces. And
why even bother, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what are you talking about? And now I am the same, because now lots of projects, the architects would like to have interfaces, and they have no idea how to call the classes, and they call them impl. It's like, okay, go away with impl. Because what happens if you get the next one? You will call it impl 2 or what, right? So
yes, exactly. That's terrible. I got so much into this once I did this Java thing, and then I started working professionally, and I also decided to pick Java for this. Well, shame on me. First, I started with PHP because it was a website, blah, blah, but then
we can cut it out.
Something
no
like
problem.
Yeah, but then I decided to do something more serious. Actually, it was a website that required to create. It was a program that we did for the customer, early consulting gigs, and most of the websites were just tables. The output was tables, which was queries from the database. And at some point they said, yeah, these tables are nice, but if we want to customize it, we'd like to have it on an Excel spreadsheet. And then I saw OpenOffice at the time, recently open sourced by Sun. And so we realized that, you can interact it with Java. It has an API. So I started doing Java, and basically I created the bridge from PHP. So basically you hit an icon on the web page, this PHP created that XML file that with instructions on how to process a spreadsheet, and then called the Java program that read this XML file from the file system and called the OpenOffice API to render in a virtual frame buffer the spreadsheet and write it on temporary disk on the web server, and then PHP return it and serve it to the user back. And that's where I really started programming in Java for something other than, class assignments.
And this is how you sold it to Google Docs, right?
I wish. To be honest, this is also shameful, I guess. That system's still in production today.
Okay.
Mostly
your company is running on this? No,
unfortunately. I mean, this is more like a friend thing that I'm keeping the software alive for my customer who's like a friend already. Yeah. And they don't want to change the system. They don't have the budget to actually rewrite everything in something because it ended up being quite extensive. And so it works like this. It does like a lot of odd things. It also generates PDF labels. And for this, PHP generates LaTeX and then compiles it to PDF and serves PDF. I mean, it was whatever you had handy at the time, but it still works. And from the Java perspective, it was very interesting because this was coded originally in Java 1.4, if I'm not mistaken. And one day, obviously, I decided to update that. And I think right now it's running on Java 17. And I didn't even bother to recompile. Like literally not even bother to recompile, just run with a modern JVM. And that was also like this kind of realization, like, wow, when people talk about Java being backwards compatible, and I know it's not perfect there, but most of the code that exists today, you can literally take a class file and run it.
Yeah.
And that's amazing compared to, I don't know any other language where you can basically do this.
And it's not as compatible what you are saying, but in my project, I did a lot back then with Glassfish, Payara, Whitefly, and the OpenLiberty. This is the reasonable WebSphere. I try to avoid the unreasonable one because you will drink way too much coffee, until it boots. But WebLogic at the beginning was really great, and Orion 7, all the stuff. And what I did in my projects, I use Java E and J2E extensively in my way. It means no dependencies, just clean code as much as possible, no indirections or whatever. And recently, most of the projects we could actually migrate in a shortest amount of time to AWS Lambda running on Quarkus serverless. So because
Very nice.
the Java E and J2E and Quarkus are compatible. So
Yep.
and last year or 2 years ago, only the packages were named, so you can basically search and replace. It's a matter of 5 minutes. Then we removed some old stuff because it can be simplified. We have microprofile config with injection, which was not available 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So a small touches and simplifications, and it runs basically as Lambda. And my clients were surprised because they already thought, huge migration project, Kubernetes or whatever. It's like, no, we can just do this. And now it is even better than before with minor modifications.
Yeah. Similar experience here. I used JBoss and Glassfish after a lot. Got into J2EE, kind of liked it. Some aspects not that much, but got into dependency injection, version of control, those things, and I was satisfied with that. But then, it felt a bit. The development cycle was kind of a bit slow, right, and a bit cumbersome sometimes. And then, because of professional life, my official role is not related to technical job at all, not let alone programming. As a founder of a startup, right? So, and focused on databases. So you can guess that I'm not programming all day precisely. I wish, because I love it, but I can't. And I stopped programming for so many years. And then one day I said, no, this is what I like. And I need, even if it's as a hobby on my free time, which I don't have, but okay, let's find some free time to do some programming because it's what I like. And one of my colleagues because we do it still in my company, my team does a lot of Java programming. They said, you need to try this Quarkus thing. I'm like, J2E, no, not anymore. I'm done with this. They're like, no, really try it. It's almost compatible. It's pretty much the same, but you will see how it works. And then I saw Quarkus development mode. It's like, oh, wow, this is really cool. I don't need to package and redeploy and wait 40 seconds or minutes for this. I just instant. And then I start seeing it, and I found it super ergonomic. And till now, I keep programming, not too much, but as much as I can, and using Quarkus for so many projects, and very happily.
Yeah, that's actually a cool story. So, hacking CEO or CEO, you are a CEO or CEO?
I am, yes, CEO, founder CEO. And CEO.
Okay.
That's all.
And and I think it's important. Otherwise, you will lose your skills, because really. Yes. So I may to remaining sharp and know what you're doing, and I think very important stuff. One of the reasons why I'm just a programmer, I wanted to keep doing the tech and don't try even to found my own company. So because I know this is beginning of the end, because either I will do both and no time, or just a single time and there's no way back. So this was actually the problem.
Actually, you say not to lose the skills. I would say I have never earned them that much anyway.
I know we had a deeper chat in Seattle. So at least you know the principles, and this is enough. Because if you know the principles and you know that you can learn it, if you really like, you can sit down in 1 month, you are up to date. I would say this is what's important, that you know that it's possible something.
Yes. Let me add a couple of things here. One is that I try to. There's most people who say in professional careers that you should focus on one thing and become an expert on that thing. I never believed too much into this, and at least for myself, I've done exactly the opposite. I like technology. I'm passionate about technology in general. You can almost talk to me about anything in technology, in software. I'll be passionate in hardware, networks, security, you name it. I'll like that, and very much, right? So what I always try to do is to learn from everything as much as I could.
Yeah.
And that means that I've become an expert on nothing, but I can talk about probably almost anything from any of the topics I just mentioned, right? Programming, network, security, hardware, software, operating systems, anything. And that gives me the confidence, exactly what you say. Like, I may be an expert on nothing, but if I really want to get deep into any of these topics, I could probably do that. But more than that, I can connect the dots, because I see things from one realm of technology, and then I can kind of apply that in a different realm of technology. And then when I want to go deep, I can go deep. Right now, I'm working on a project that we will be open sourcing soon, which I think is a great illustration of this. So our company is focused on databases.
We will. We have to cover your company in depth until you know how it happened, how the company happened.
Okay.
But what's interesting now is that I'm the opposite of you. So my origin plan during my study is to learn everything, all the programming languages. And then Java happened. And from the beginning, I was in Java projects and I had no time to learn anything else. And then I saw that it's almost impossible to really learn Java. So I was at the first Java once and saw, the speakers to say, how smart are they? It is impossible to keep up. I tried to learn and learn and learn, and I'm still learning. And the problem is, if you learn, I did for Java E extensively and J2E. So I even forgot about the basics in Java because you don't need them a lot. So, I kept doing the basics. So I forgot a little bit Java E. So it's constantly learning and forgetting. But what happened is, in my projects, you cannot just do Java, right? So what happens is we were in on the back end, and the database, had a problem. So I was also interested in database. So I learned as much as possible about databases then to fix the problems. And of course, the Java backend is this what I learned the most, and all the environment I learn as much as possible. So the outcome is identical to yours, but motivations are different, interestingly. But it's the same outcome. Or for instance, in the cloud, AWS, there's CDK infrastructure as code. We need the infrastructure, so let's do it properly, right? So and this is and we did it with CDK in Java, so it was fun. But you still have to learn all the services and whatever. So it's like, let's do this and use them properly. So if there is something to learn, I like to learn, but I had a chat with speakers, for instance, from conferences in Germany. So and there are some speakers who speak, every year about different language. And this is what I don't understand at all, because I couldn't do this. I couldn't, I couldn't talk today about Java, next year about Rust, and have enough experience also to cover, what are the pros and cons. So maybe the syntax is not a problem. So this is what I think you need some time to go deep in one topic. Definitely. And then learn as much as possible the surroundings. And I was surrounded by people who said I could do, everything, every language. I was like, this is impossible. I mean, it's just really hard to be really good in Python, I would say, Java and Ruby. If you would like to be expert in these three, it's not enough time. Okay, know the syntax is a different story, but knowing the syntax, if I look at Python, I can tell you roughly what happens, right? But this is not
no, it's about the ecosystem, the libraries, obviously the oddities of specific language.
Yeah, recently I had to install pip-dry. I remember this is something from hell. So it took 4 hours, and I say I was really ashamed already that this is something with Python, and so this is in Java. This is one double click, and I have the Java whatever, and this is and then I went to Stack Overflow. And it's okay. I'm not alone, right? You should.
No, you're not. Yeah, no, I mean, installing Python. I've had so many sad stories with it, and always something breaks, some dependency. Compared to a JVM, download and install with the system packing a tar file or installing.
But what I don't understand,
whatever you want, right?
People say
it's self-contained. That's it.
But because many claim Python is good for beginners, but they also have to install the stuff, right? I mean, the beginners. This is interesting. That okay.
Yeah, maybe. It's a bit contradictory, but yes, that's the whole thing. No, I definitely believe speaking every year about one different language is definitely too much, unless you focus on learning languages for the sake of learning languages.
Imagine. So
and even then,
Even if you do full 100% Rusty, let's say from now to 1 year in projects plus learning, I think there's not enough time to walk out and speak about about the problems, the shortcomings, what went wrong, features maybe, but not how
maybe
to
some
use
tutorial, something.
Yeah, okay.
I agree.
So what happened after the study? So you did C++, a cool project with Java 1.4, OpenOffice, and XML, which is already still in production,
right?
And it runs on bare metal or in Docker or
VM, AWS.
Okay,
EC2 because it requires all the components. Like no fancy services, just EC2 and some auto scaling magic to keeping it alive. Well, not.
Yeah, and I thought already. Maybe it is not that bad to have, for instance, a small EC2 machines with one single jar in Quarkus, for instance, right? So I think a lot about that. No Fargate, nothing, just EC2 machine, a small one, one jar, and Corretto, and here we go, right? So I'm thinking a lot because this is almost like a
lot right now.
Okay, interesting. So we have to talk about this for sure because in some project, I think if you go serverless, right, and you get too much traffic, it gets too expensive. So, and with Quarkus, I would say, okay, then I will do exactly opposite, which is bare metal with Corretto, create a very simple image, no dependencies, and here we go. Right? So we have to talk about this as well. But what interests me, what happened after open office experience?
Okay. So after that time, finished the university, and I went to start my company.
Why? How is
so
it? That idea?
I never got the idea. It was mostly accidental. So basically, I was a let's say high representative of the student union at the university. I got to become the number one in my school, and number two within the whole university of the representative of students. So I got very involved with this, not with politics. Fortunately, they were not involved with politics. We were not, but just with representation and managing. And at some time, I was sitting there. I was spending a lot of time there in the office. There was one person who called a colleague of mine and said, "Hey, I need some professional help with some tool I was developing." And then my colleague said, "Okay, I can maybe help you." And then he called me and said, "Please help me," because he was younger than me. He needed some more guidance. And then we did some consulting gig, just to get started. But then he kept us asking more and more and more. And at some point, we decided, well, let's make a company just to support this activity, because that was the right thing to do, right? How to earn money. I mean, how to charge.
Yeah.
And then that became a company. And then we started with this. There was no specific focus or vision or anything. It was like, oh, we just started. We're here. Let's continue. Let's look for more customers. So I never worked for anyone.
I'm laughing here because similar story here, but even more dramatic. So I was a student who wanted to earn money. And I saw someone would like to have a help with Oracle, C++, Pro C. I was able and to optimize the access. So maybe I can help. So I delivered, and they tell me then after I delivered, we cannot pay you. It's like, why that? It's like, because you have to give us an invoice. It's like, okay, I can do it. No. But for invoice, you have to have a company. And then I became sick. Company? It's like, why? I'm a student and I have no time for company. It's like, no, be calm, you just go there and you get, this is like a freelancer. Not a big deal, and I rethought this. It's like, this is impossible, whatever. And now it's funny stuff happens, right? So I created the company. It was 1997. Then I created the invoice and sent them, and I got, I don't know, I worked for them maybe 3 months, and I got 2,000 D-mark, which is 1,000 euros roughly, right? So it's not that much, I would say, but it was enough to reach the threshold, so that I have to pay back, the study help for students. So with that, I was minus 5K, with this. Then I was forced, to work. And this was my start of the company, and this is, I never planned actually to be a freelancer. And from then I kept, working because I had no other chance. So this is actually the story. Also, I never wanted to have a company. I just wanted to learn everything, and have a fun time. This was actually my plan, not companies. But very similar to yours. But in it was just one single invoice. It changed everything. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very similar stories.
Parallel stories in years. Yes.
Parallel universe in different countries. Yeah.
Yes.
In Spain, it was everything. In your case,
everything in Spain. Yes.
Where was it?
In Madrid, where I live.
Madrid, everything. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now it's company is a US company with a subsidiary in Spain. But right now, a company is a US company.
So yeah, serious CEO.
At some point, you need to become serious. Well, that company is not the same we started, obviously. There's been several in between, several failed companies.
Okay. So you created the company, and was the Java project your first project in the company?
It was kind of building an ERP. And but very, very custom, so it could not be reused for general public. But
you like SAP, like SAP. This is also
SAP, pretty much the same.
Better. So this you created Google Docs, and short after SAP. It's not bad.
Exactly. No ambition earlier.
And it was Java.
It was mostly Java. It started PHP, then became Java, and then I realized, this Java is very powerful. We can do things with Java, and I started programming almost everything in Java. But the focus also was very strong on the database part, which at this time I started with Postgres since university times. When I had no idea about databases, I asked one of my colleagues, "Hey, I need the database for storing some data from the web. Like, how do I do this? Use a database. I don't know what is a database. I've searched on the internet. There's many. Which one should I take? Postgres. Okay, Postgres, whatever it is, I'll learn." And I learned and never looked back till now. I still use Postgres for everything. And so what I saw is that within this company, I was doing all the programming in in Java, all the backend in Postgres. And these two technologies have been kind of the centerpiece of my technical and professional career since then up until today.
And which servers you used back then? So this was Java, but you create your own server, or you used Wi-Fi or whatever?
Yeah, we spin our own servers. Like we build the hardware from higher quality parts first place. They were even hosted in offices, in our customers' offices at first, like even drilling holes on the walls to cable them and all that. But then at some point, we obviously started looking into co-location, and we bought some servers. I am so proud, still keep them. The first Sun Microsystems Sun servers powered by AMD Opteron, I think that was the name by then, processors. And there were amazing pieces of hardware where we ran on co-location and started becoming more serious. Obviously, it was predates definitely the cloud times.
But it was not the Niagara, right? The Niagara servers, they were the...
No.
This was the... I think there was still the... what was the chip?
Spark.
The last Spark, and the next, the AMD.
I think those were.
And the AMD, I wanted to buy one, and the chassis was beautiful. It was... yeah.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And they had the desktop
Sun VC
workstation.
Yeah, servers. This 19-inch rackable. This was the V20Z servers, and I was very impressed because they had a small Motorola 68000 computer running inside of the computer with an independent network card and power connection that ran Linux, and you could SSH to manage. You can even SSH to power on your server. That cool. Was amazing.
Yeah. Okay. And what I also meant, it is interesting. The software servers. You build your own software which talks to Java, to the database, or which server it was.
Well, it was mostly Java, like running. At first, it was Java-jar, and then connecting to the database. And later on, it was JBoss first and Glassfish.
Cool.
Also interacting with the web layer and the database.
Almost parallel universe again. So you also attended Java 1 conferences?
Yes. I attended the very last Java 1 conference run by Sun Microsystems, and I think the first one run by Oracle.
Very last. So you saw how Scott McNeely and Laurie Ellison gave to Scott McNeely, you saw this?
Yes.
So Scott McNeely, the younger guy, Jonathan Schwartz, and Larry Ellison came and said, okay, and what Larry Ellison said back then, everything will be Java. It asked, Scott McNeely, why? I remember they asked why OpenOffice is not Java. It will be Java. This is what I remember the keynote. And yeah. And I don't think it's still C, I guess, but maybe one day.
I think C++, by the way.
Yeah, and I think it was implemented in Germany, in Hamburg somewhere, because I met the developers.
Yes, because it was a start by a company called Star something, because it was Star Office first. You can see in the API that I used to connect from Java, it was all full of Star names. They remain there.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you had your first company with the servers, and this was the ERP company. So your goal was to have an ERP product?
It was kind of consulting software company. We did several different projects for different customers.
Okay.
And then what we did later is at some point I saw I want to get into product. I see the different economic scalabilities of it, and I thought, I want to do something for mass consumption. And at that point, I saw a need. It was a time where there were a few telephone carriers, and they were very expensive. Probably the same thing happened in Germany. And then started this thing about the virtual operators, mobile virtual operators, which were much lower cost. In Spain, got crazy that we had the 3 major ones, like mostly every country had, and then 20 low-cost carriers. And the price difference was huge. And I thought, oh my God, I want to change. I want to save money, but which one to pick? This is not easy. So I built a prototype of a software that, by looking heavily using the database and Java programming, both things, could run through your telephone bills, which we capture from PDF sources and all the things, and compute your bill against all of the tariffs published by all these operators, and then tell you which one will be cheaper for you.
Cool.
So we designed a billing system for telephone carriers, and we built this as an Android app and published it in the market and make a business out of it.
Worked well.
Which failed miserably.
Okay.
We made one of the usual mistakes that entrepreneurs do, which is to release very late because you're trying to polish the product too much. Our billing engine is probably today, I guess, one of the most advanced billing engines out there for billing, telephones. We did kind of a graph modeling of a bill. And it included cases like, what if your call at the time the tariffs were complicated? Like, for example, if you call in the afternoons, you have one price, but in the mornings it's a different price. So what if your call spans several of these regions?
Yeah.
What if your call spans several months because you start a call, 11 p.m. on the 31st, and like it lasts 3 hours, and we contemplated in the case where a call may span several months.
Oh,
you can laugh. It's okay. So we got very late to the market. And when we went to the market, first there was a competitor, which their system was similar idea. The system was much simpler, did mistakes all the time, but they were there and people started using them. And on top of that, we spent 2 years building the system. And by the time, the prices had converged a lot.
Yeah.
And the expensive ones, they were not that expensive anymore. So the cost of switching was high. And people, didn't bother too much. So, learning experience. It was fun while it lasted. Then came back to consulting because that's what I was doing. And then I realized I should focus a little bit more on Postgres because that was kind of the common. Java was also very common, but
one question. Back then, as the Postgres decision was made, I think it was around 2000, right?
The first time I started using Postgres actually was in the university, probably 1999.
Okay, because interesting, back then, I think MySQL was more popular than Postgres, right?
Oh, yeah, much more.
And how you knew that Postgres is a thing and MySQL is not that interesting?
At first, I didn't know. I just asked someone. They said, use Postgres. Okay.
Use Postgres. Okay.
And because it worked for me and never failed on me and never needed anything that I didn't find there, and I found it easy to get started with. Most people say, Postgres is hard in MySQL. No, like, this is very easy. I can work with it. So that's it. I never looked back because it always worked.
Yeah. Because even, a few years ago, I still had, sometimes hard time to convince to use Postgres for specific projects. And and back then MySQL was huge. And my problem is, as I remember, most of the MySQL installation didn't have proper transactions. And I came, from the Java world, and I said, okay, we cannot use it. I mean, we could use it, but I mean, what happens if something breaks? And this, it's not a problem. We are over-engineering the systems. Like, look, transactions are actually important. And this was like, I don't know what it was, maybe 2005, 2006. There are lots of articles that Java is complicated. You don't need transactions, and even Ruby. There was I had Rails, and I commented Rails and transactions, and Daniel Hannemeyer Hansen even commented back and said, okay, for certain reason they could have transactions, but most they don't need and whatever. So this was actually an interesting time. So kudos to you that you actually started with the proper database, Postgres, because
I was lucky.
Yeah.
Cool. But the times have changed. But actually, I saw this later on, and when I was sometimes comparing MySQL with Postgres, I was like, no, like, why? Because of so many things. I wrote a lot of WTFs about MySQL versus Postgres, and I was like, why? I mean, they're both open source software. Why would I pick something that is less powerful than something that is more powerful and more reliable? So I was like, I continued with that all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so the next company, what happened? So you were a consultant, and by the way, I have to invite you back to talk more deeply about your current company and your current endeavor. So we are not under pressure, hopefully. So in a couple of weeks, if you have time. But
with pleasure.
What happened after your consulting gig?
Yeah, so after that one, so after this company failed company about the mobile phone app, I went back to consulting because I had to do something for a living, right? And so I went back to do some what I was doing before, some programming and some Java databases stuff. Databases stuff. And at that point, I started to go very deep into Postgres. And we became partners of we started going to Postgres conference, became partners of a another Postgres company, started doing some training. I really learned deep into Postgres administration at the time, Postgres
Was the enterprise company, Enterprise DB, the company behind
Enterprise DB, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I started doing a lot of trainings for them. I recorded a lot of trainings. I have hours and hours of recorded material. I became probably at the time one of their largest trainers for Postgres.
Cool.
And I started engaging more and more with the Postgres community since then. And then I realized I really like that stuff. I really like Postgres. And I started seeing at the same time, there are some kind of gaps. Like Postgres is a truly fantastic database. So and it's very obvious that I love it, right? But at the same time, I see that it's far from batteries included. And I thought, well, there's things that we can help the community with by developing software that sits in between what Postgres streamlined down core is from a usability perspective, not from a features perspective, but from a usability perspective to what the user needs. And there's a huge distance. I mean, installing Postgres on your laptop is as simple as a simple command, right? Like apt-get install Postgres or yum install Postgres, blah, blah, blah. Will get your Postgres running in a few seconds. But running Postgres in production may take you hours to weeks with a high expertise, right? So to bridge this gap, I saw the need to develop some software kind of running on top of Postgres that would bridge this gap between users' production needs and what Postgres core comes with. And that was actually kind of the seed for my latest and current company focused on bridging this gap. I'm providing solutions on top of Postgres.
So you had only 3 companies.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
There's not that much. I expected more. So so your current company is like Apple for Postgres.
Yeah. The name says it all. The name of the company is Ongress.
Ongress,
which is the short for on Postgres.
Okay. And what we can buy from Ongress?
So there's 2 things, right? One is professional services, classical business, helping people set up Postgres, run Postgres, troubleshoot Postgres. We do basically 3 main things. We do 24/7 support, which is very critical for companies, especially large companies who want to run production workloads on Postgres. Whether they run on-prem or in the cloud, you need this kind of help if you're a big company. We do also consulting projects, like general consulting projects about Postgres, trainings where we had very lengthy experience, and especially we do a lot of migrations from proprietary or legacy databases to Postgres. Most of the time is Oracle to Postgres migrations, which are projects where users may and companies, customers may save a huge amounts of money going from the expensive bills to zero. So that's one part, right? Professional services, more classical business unit. And then we started developing software to bridge this gap, as I was just mentioning to you. So we have developed basically right now one main product, which is called Stackgres.
Stackgres.
Which is the stack of components.
Stack of components.
Yeah, literally is the stack of components, because Postgres is as I said before, it's not batteries included. Postgres doesn't come with connection pooling. Postgres doesn't come with monitoring. Postgres doesn't come with backups. Postgres is a small core, right? So you need to put it in production. You need several components. You need the stack of components on top of Postgres to run it. And that is Stackgres. Stackgres is a fully packaged platform for running Postgres. Arguably, I would say it's the most advanced Postgres platform out there. Has more automation, way more automation than RDS, for example.
So is this like out of the box? Is it runs in Docker, or where it does run?
It runs on Kubernetes. So you can run anywhere where Kubernetes runs. On-prem deployments, cloud deployments, we got a lot of both.
So
it's a Kubernetes operator.
This is one of the few cases where Kubernetes could make sense, right? Because you have a product with operator, and operator is like with the CRD is like standard extension from, so you can introduce your own commands, whatever, and this is like, and you can run in all the clouds basically for free, which makes absolute sense. So that's interesting. So you have your own, how to call it, opinionated Postgres, fully automated opinionated Postgres, which runs autonomously somewhere, and it get automatically patched by you, I assume, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's interesting because these CRDs basically, they're like Java interfaces. They provide a contract to the user is an API. We have put a lot of effort in designing this API, the aspect of these CRDs, so that it is extremely easy to use. We don't expose anything that is complex for the user. I mean, you can go deep if you want. If you're a Postgres expert, you'll find all the tunables that you want. But if you're not, you'll be able to create very simply Postgres clusters on any Kubernetes with just a few lines of YAML. So much that, for example, we support something equivalent to what Aurora Limitless is right now. So scale out. So it's the possibility that you can set up, let's say, a 62-node Postgres cluster with 2 coordinators, which are the routers, and then 30 workers, where each worker is 2 nodes for primary and replica. All this set up, wired up for you, connected the dots, so you're scaling writes to 30 nodes at the same time, deploy the 62 nodes, and you can do this in like 10 to 15 lines of very high-level, simple YAML file, and deploy this and get running in a few minutes. This is a huge level of automation, right?
I would have to invite you a couple of times back, because what I would like to talk about first about the platform, if you like. Your platform is interesting because there's a great Kubernetes story, and usually I'm against Kubernetes for normal projects because it doesn't make any sense, to fiddle with Kubernetes. If you can, deploy Quarkus to Fargate or to Lambda for free, you don't have to fiddle with the infrastructure. But in your case, it makes absolute sense. And the other thing, which is interesting, Postgres and Java, And because there's JDBC, which has nice features, and Postgres has nice features. And what interests me is also, beyond standards, JSONB in Kubernetes in Postgres, that specific features, just, to show Java developers what Postgres is able to do. And I had a similar conversation with Oracle, because I was like, Oracle, everyone knows, but what are the proprietary features? Because the proprietary features are more interesting than, the standards, because we know standards. I mean, this JDBC, JPA would do it all the time. And a funny story I actually try to avoid relational database in the cloud all the time, if I'm in charge of, because it's very simple. Actually, all my Java projects in the cloud, are either we use S3 or DynamoDB, which is not nice for developing, but I can tell you the reason. Most of Java developers, they have complete different understanding what a relational database in the cloud actually is, right? So if I'm in a project, usually what happens then, you build it, you run it, right? It's not like we get a department who cares about things, so we have to set up at least initially something. And if you take a look at RDS, even serverless, Aurora, Postgres, so I say, okay, what is the expectation, right? On what I hear from developers, there's a button, push the button and you get the server. I'm saying, okay, what if I will tell you that we need first a VPC, right? So VPC with a private subnet, public subnet, and maybe 2 VPCs. And then we install, the RDS in the private subnet VPC, and in the public, we install the database. And then we are not done, because we have to exercise a bit the backup, which can be adventure on its own, right? So we will set up another account because it's more reasonable, and we will back up to another account. And to do that, we need our keys, right? And with the keys, we have to see that the other account can decrypt what you encrypted. And no kidding, in some companies, we spend 3 days just exercising this. And
I can totally imagine. Yes.
Yeah. And this is, but this is not the fault, of the cloud, whatever. This is how it is. And if you go, for instance, DynamoDB or S3, there's nothing to do. I mean, we can start with the one, and if we invest 3 days in developing, we have a kind of a good layer. And if you know what you are doing from the business perspective, it's not a big deal. But in your case, it's different. So if I get your stuff, I don't. Then it changes, because I get similar experience to DynamoDB or S3. I don't care about the backup. You are in charge. So if I were a big company and I say, take Stackgres from Ongress, and if something goes wrong, sue them, not me, right? Because usually I'm in charge of the architecture. And then it flips, because I say, okay, then I would rather prefer to use nice SQL before I'm working with a hash map, to talk to S3, which we did in Java 20 years ago, or even
exactly.
So this is the interesting part, which people don't understand. People don't understand. Sometimes they don't understand me, because I spent some time at conferences, and back then I was in private clouds, basically, or in private data centers. And the interesting part there is there was a department running the databases, and you were not allowed to touch them. Exactly the same for application servers. I was in larger companies. There was application servers were operated somewhere. No one knew where,
It's
and
very
we sometimes and we copy over the wars, and they were installed, and we are ready to go. And sometimes we had that XML to say, okay, this is the number of connections, whatever. And basically, this was serverless. No kidding. So I didn't care about the application servers. I just created the business logic, and here we go. But if we go to a public cloud from data center, it is completely different. Suddenly, we have to care about things which were they were not visible to us, 20 years ago. So and the serverless is similar experience without the department, right? And this is interesting, and this is why if I'm talking about public cloud, it's usually complete different architecture than private clouds. Private cloud, the default would be Postgres, Kafka. If you need a Kafka, Postgres, if you need a database, then OpenShift usually in most projects. And in public cloud would be DynamoDB, S3, and Lambda. And no VPCs are not allowed unless you have to talk to your own data center. So this would be my default, default architecture.
Yeah. Actually, I can tell you that most of our users and customers of Stackgres, they use it to create their own RDS, their own private RDS, so that instead of having this department managing and everything and firewalling and controlling everyone like if they're gods, and I've been a DBA, so I've been on that camp too, not blaming anyone here, then now they're free. They're free and they allow users to create as many databases clusters as they want because the interface is very simple. We provide REST API also if you want to do that, a web UI, so you can click and fire things. So yeah, definitely this is one of the use cases. And by the way, let me say a quick spoiler here. Stackgres, which is a huge project, is around 250,000 lines of code as of now, is very complete, very featureful. And it's a Kubernetes operator, is fully written in Java.
Pretty cool.
Which is quite unusual for operators.
Yeah.
Which Go world, these operators written in
and
Java.
bit Quarkus maybe, right?
Fully Quarkus, not bit, fully Quarkus.
Yeah, this would have expected. And and this is really interesting conversation because now I always I had a lot of conversation about serverless and stuff because something like your stuff is usually not available. And if your company says we would like to have a Stackgres and Ongress, then it's okay. Then you care about all the stuff. For me, it's serverless again. Actually, so because the Kubernetes runs somewhere
in Kubernetes, you literally don't worry about servers.
Yeah, exactly.
You say deploy these workloads, and if it fails, reheal it. Like I don't care.
Okay, so and on AWS, for instance, I assume I will get you from Marketplace, right? Or you will install the stuff for me, or how it works? Would the database run in your account or in my account?
No, it runs wherever you want. We don't run the services. We don't provide the cloud service. We provide software. So it runs on your account. Deploy an EKS cluster and deploy it into EKS cluster or OpenShift on EC2, whatever you want. On-prem also works, obviously.
And how is the installation? Is it a cloud formation or what?
It's a Helm chart. Which is a standardized mechanism for installing packages of Kubernetes, and which is kind of a templated YAML file where you can
you like Xdoclet. You remember Xdoclet back then?
Yes, of course. Not good memories, but I do remember now.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, cool. So and have you had thoughts about providing the database as a service from your account?
Yeah, it's a recurring question. Yes and no. Like in principle, we are not focused on doing this. First of all, it's a very crowded market right now. And I see our values are more aligned. There's a philosophy that one of my friends put a name to it. And I think the name is quite good. The name is MSMR, which means my server, my rules. So the philosophy behind this is that we all, or most of us, right, love open source software, and we run open source software for a reason. And that reason or those reasons are that I can inspect it, I can understand how it works, I have transparency, and I can adapt it, right? But if you look at Postgres, which is pure open source software, right? If you look at the cloud managed service, well, it's not longer open source. First of all, it's a forked version with some changes into it, which you don't know. But second, and more importantly, you don't control the environment. You cannot SSH to your RDS. You cannot verify your own backups. You don't have access to the backups, right? Like you need to trust. I mean, and they work. It's a pretty good product. Nothing against, absolutely nothing, right? But they tell, oh, you have backups. Okay, I do have, but I don't see them. I cannot verify them. I cannot do anything with them, right? I can only set the encryption key. That's all, and hope that they're there. And if you want to do something, and with a DBA hat, sometimes I want to do some troubleshooting within the server itself. Something I cannot do over a connection string. And so there are limits to what you want to do. And then in terms of regulatory environments, there are some people who cannot even afford to do this anyway because they need to control that environment. So we kind of lost a bit this spirit or the reasons behind running open source. If you're running on a managed service, it doesn't matter you're running Postgres or any proprietary product because it's proprietary to you.
Yeah.
So what we want to deliver is a way for users to be free to follow this philosophy, MSMR, my server, my rules, so you can control your own destiny. So Stackgres basically allows you to run a Postgres as a service anywhere you want on your environment. So you have full control of the platform. You have full root user. You can SSH, or at least on Kubernetes land, you can kube-exec, right? Kube-exec into anything and understand everything that is running and customize it because it's fully open source and have retained these reasons behind running open source.
And but I don't have to, right? I could run, your cloud without knowing what's inside and treat it as a proper piece of software, or I can dig into and use, my expert knowledge and fine tune my Postgres.
Yeah, and this is not purely a purism open source, right? This is also about there's a lot of environments where they need to run in platforms that they own and control for regulatory reasons or for just corporate strategy, right?
Okay.
So
thank you. I will invite you back. I have to, and I don't know. You were talking either about Postgres in Java or and for sure also about your cloud because it's even more interesting. Both. And let's now talk about deep dive database Java and Postgres on Java, right? Cloud, both, right? Java talks to Postgres, and Postgres runs on Java Cloud on Kubernetes. So Java managed,
and
Kubernetes.
In general, containers. There is also a lot of topics I could probably talk about. There's some upcoming new product from our company, also fully open source, that is kind of a new thing in terms of containers.
Even better.
It's also done with Java.
Yeah, then we have to talk. Whatever is Java, we have to talk. And thank you a lot, and see you soon. And I will invite you back in a couple of weeks or next year.
I appreciate it, and it will be my pleasure to get back chatting with you.
Where people can find you? What's the name of your company again? And maybe Twitter, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, whatever you have.
Okay. Name of company is Ongress. So ongress.com. As to where to find me, the easiest thing is to go to my personal webpage. I have a personal webpage where I compile mostly all the talks and blog posts that I do. There's more than 150 talks there since the last kind of 12 years. Yeah, a lot. And the page is my initials. So it's basically aht.es.
Cool.
Very simple, 5 letters, aht.es. And there is links to my LinkedIn, Twitter, and everything.
And small tip.
My Twitter, I'm not going to spell it because it's very complicated. That's weird.
And small tip, you should create a Blue Sky account soon, because I don't know what happened in the last 2 weeks. It's crazy. It's just like, everyone, I don't know why, this is like, mass exodus from Twitter to Blue Sky.
Yes.
And the entire Java community is there. So this is a hyperactivity on Blue Sky. So at least create an account.
I think I did actually long time ago, but I haven't used it yet.
So reconnect and see what happens there. This is crazy.
I'll do.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the tip. Really appreciate it. Will do.
Thank you.